On tonight. Jennifer, what's amazing about this, and I did have an opportunity just minutes before coming on the air to speak to the president. We had initially discussed, both of us this week, that it would probably take at the Fordo facility as many as 2 bunker buster bombs. I can confirm it was 6 bunker buster bombs that were used in that one, on that one fortified, deeply buried inside that mountain site, the one that everybody worried about, the one that Israel was not going to be capable of taking out unless they went nuclear.
Well, that's right, Sean, and it's very interesting that the president shared with you that 6 of those MOP, massive ordnance penetrator, the 30,000-pound bunker buster bombs, were used on Fordo. That would mean that you would have had at least 3 B-2 bombers dropping those, because each of the B-2s can carry 2 of those MOP bombs. Based on my assessment and what I know about Fordo, there are 2 entrances to Fordo, so you may have had 2 bunker busters in each of the entrances. The way they work, as we've discussed in the past, Sean, is that one of the MOP bombs drops in and can penetrate about 200 feet underground. It makes about a 25-foot radius hole into the ground, and then the second bomb dropped from the B-2 bomber will penetrate that exact spot and go even further. And Fordo, as we know, is about 300 feet underground. I suspect that the third spot that was hit at Fordo, based on the structure of that facility, that underground nuclear facility in the mountain there, is a ventilation shaft that is very prominent. And if you dropped 2 bunker buster bombs of those MOP 30,000-pound bombs through the ventilation shaft, that would be another way to reach deep underground and to ensure that you destroyed that facility 300 feet underground. I think it's also notable, Sean, that the president told you that TLAMs, or Tomahawk missiles, were used in the strike on Natanz. Natanz also has an underground facility. Those Tomahawks would have been fired, as you mentioned, from submarines that were attached to either the USS Carl Vinson aircraft carrier strike group or the USS Nimitz, which was newly in the region. It had steamed all the way from the Pacific, and we understand that it arrived in the CENTCOM AOR earlier today. So those Tomahawks could be fired from any number of locations from those aircraft carriers. And then you have Isfahan. Isfahan is an above-ground site, and so you could have used conventional weapons for that. There could have been the Air Force could have been involved in that, or it could have been simply those Tomahawks. Natanz has 3 underground facilities, so there would have been about 6 points of impact at Natanz. And so we'll just have to wait and see if the B-2s were involved at all in Natanz or Isfahan, but certainly the involvement of Tomahawks, U.S. naval submarines, and those incredible B-2 bombers. What's notable to me, Sean, is that this morning we woke up looking westwards and this was all part of the deception in terms of the operational security for this incredible mission, is that those 6 B-2 bombers that were seen by radar trackers, open source flight trackers, they were heading west towards Guam, we were told. U.S. officials confirmed to us that they were heading to Guam. It's about a 30-hour flight. If they took off from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri and flew directly to Iran, it would be about 30 hours. They would not have made it in time. So it was not those B-2s that were involved in this mission. Most likely what happened is the B-2s also took off to the east. So another squadron took off from Whiteman to the east, and that's about a 15-hour trip to Iran, and they would be on their way back to the United States right now. It's a 30-hour round trip if you fly to the east. And that's where we saw that air refueling bridge that was built earlier in the week, where all those air refuelers, about 30, were sent from the United States to Europe and to the Middle East to help with those B-2s. Sean?
Let me give you a little bit more detail. I'm being told now from a reliable source that Fordo, they believe it is gone. They believe that it has been wiped out. And again, we had discussed earlier in the week the possibility of not 1 but 2 bunker buster bombs. Again, 30,000-pound bombs being necessary to take out that one deeply buried facility. I can put clarification on Natanz and Esfahan, the other two facilities that you were referencing and discussing. The 30 Tomahawks from a submarine over 400 miles away took out the remainder of the sites. It was believed, the assessment was that the Israelis had taken out about 75% of those sites. So it was basically completing the mission that had begun with Israel on those other two locations, just to give you clarification.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. But truly, the fact that 30 Tomahawks were fired from the U.S. naval vessels, from those submarines, again, this just shows the strength and the ability and the precision of the U.S. military. And there's no doubt tonight, in my mind, Sean, that President Xi in Beijing and President Putin in Moscow are taking note of the U.S. military capabilities and what Israel has been able, tiny Israel has been able to accomplish in the last 10 days. So this is really a very, very significant night in terms of what the mission accomplished. But as we have discussed, what comes next? And the U.S. military is warning its personnel across the Middle East. There are 40,000 troops across the Middle East at bases in Syria, Iraq, as well as in the Gulf states. And they are now on high alert, expecting some sort of response from Iran. Now, if Iran were smart, and it's not clear that they are, they would not respond. And they would then try to negotiate in order to save their regime. But if they do something like mine the Strait of Hormuz or try to take a shot at any of those U.S. Navy vessels or manage to fire any missiles at U.S. bases or kill any American personnel, then this will escalate a lot further. This has the potential to end right now if the Iranians do not respond. Sean?
A couple of things that you're saying, Jennifer, and you get to follow the greatest, best military that God ever gave man, and the bravest of the brave. And you're right, and every single military effort brings with it danger, and you have to game out and calculate out what the potential response might be. Obviously, they are prepared for that. In the lead up to this, we know a lot of people had been evacuated. A lot of people had been warned. The president himself was warning the people in Tehran to get out of Tehran and give them an opportunity. As he said, he doesn't have a problem with the people of Iran, but they were never going to have nuclear weapons. We went back and looked. The first time he said that was in 2011. And he had been very, very consistent in his statement about that. And, you know, other early indications, too, is that he gave them, there was a little note at the end of his statement tonight that he's willing to discuss peace again. And then that creates now a dilemma, once again, for the supreme leader of Iran. Will he remain stubborn to the point where their refineries will be targeted next, where their gas grid will be targeted next, and they'll have no power? If they take out the refineries, they'll have no economy in Iran. So big decisions on their part tonight, things they should be thinking about if they're thinking about any retaliation. Jennifer Griffin, we'll get back to you. We appreciate your report, and God bless our military. Incredible feat that they were able to accomplish.